The end of law is not to abolish or restrain, but to preserve and enlarge freedom. This is John Locke, the man who laid the intellectual foundation for the Enlightenment, liberal democracy, and even the American Revolution. He studied at Oxford, refused the church position, practiced medicine, and served as a nobleman. And after a political scandal that forced him into exile in Holland, he came back to England and changed the world with his pen. He wasn't loud, he wasn't flashy, but what he said was explosive. In 1690, Locke dropped an essay concerning human understanding, a project he'd been refining for 20 years. His central claim: we are not born with innate ideas. The mind begins as a blank state, a tabula rasa. Everything we know comes from experience, from sensation and reflection. We form simple ideas, and then build them into complex ideas. Knowledge for Locke is just recognizing relationships between ideas. Because our ideas come from experience, knowledge has limits. We can't see the real essence of things, just the qualities they present to us, but that's okay. Locke says our minds are good enough to get by, to reason, survive, and flourish in everyday life. Locke wasn't focused on knowledge. He tackled moral freedom, volition, and identity too. He believed free will isn't about choosing without cause. It's about acting in accordance with reason and knowing that your actions are yours. He defined personal identity through memory. You are who you remember being. That's what makes you morally responsible, not the body, but the conscious self over time. And in Of the Conduit of the Understanding, he wrote a guide to train your mind, not with blind faith or empty rhetoric, but with careful thinking, practical logic, and mental discipline. At the same time, Locke dropped one of the most powerful political texts in history, 2 treatises on government. The first tore apart the idea that kings rule by the divine right. The second built up a new model. Government is formed by consent, not command. It exists to protect your natural right to life, liberty, and property. If a ruler violates those rights, the people have a right to revolt. Locke refined sovereignty not as something given to rulers by God, but something entrusted to them by the people. He wasn't an anarchist, but he was radical for his time. Locke didn't just care about politics, he fought for religious tolerance too. In his letter concerning toleration, he argued, the government has no rights to dictate your beliefs. Truth, he said, must be discovered by the individual conscience, not imposed by the sword. But tolerance has limits. He rejected the tolerance of intolerance itself. He feared it would destroy the very freedom it claims. And in some thoughts concerning education, Locke shaped modern childhood education, emphasizing virtue, discipline, and treating children as rational beings. John Locke gave the Enlightenment its epistemology, liberalism its philosophical foundation, and revolutionaries their justification. To him, reason was not just a tool, it was a duty. Freedom was not just a right, it was a responsibility. And he asked us to think clearly, act deliberately, and believe only what can withstand reason. And as he once famously says, new opinions are always suspected and usually opposed without any other reason, but because they are not already common.